Hi, everyone. My name is Max, and I am your host for this session. I hope we are recovering well from Typhoon Ulysses from last week. For this session, we're going to talk about the Filipino researcher as the next startup founder. As you can see the title on our screen, this session is a collaboration between Saliksik and Upscale. A little bit about these two. Saliksik, the direct Filipino translation of the word research, is the country's first crowdsourcing platform that helps provide seed or supplemental funding for Filipino research in any field. The team aims to promote the importance of research in the development of our country, to humanize, deconstruct, and demystify the notion of the elusive researcher, as well as to empower aspiring researchers in the country. Upscale, on the other hand, is a hub for startups and industry collaborations launched by the University of the Philippines in partnership with the Department of Science and Technology Philippine Council for Industry, Energy, and Emerging Technology, Research and Development, otherwise known as DOST PSURD, to accelerate technology innovation through startup incubation and industry-academe collaboration. For more information about the organizations, feel free to message us through the Attendify platform. Also, visit our social media accounts flashed on the screen. We'd love to hear your thoughts about the talk and how we can work together to promote a culture of research and innovation in the Philippines, so do ask us anything all throughout the session. To start off the program, may we invite Dr. Luis Sison, Project Leader of Upscale, Innovation Hub and Director of UP Technology Transfer and Business Development Office, UP-TTBDO, to deliver the opening remarks. Doc Louis.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me over, and congratulations to Saliksik for organizing this event. I'd like to highlight two researchpreneurs from the Philippines that we've had the great opportunity to work with. The first one is Dr. Evelyn Taboada from the University of San Carlos in Cebu. She and her collaborators developed technology to turn byproducts from the local mango processing industry, stuff they normally throw away, into commercial food ingredients like flour. Together with investment from the university and other partners, they started GEMS and built their facility, which now employs 100 people and processes up to 30 metric tons per day of mango products from 7 mango producers in Cebu. You've also probably heard of our second researchpreneur in the news recently. Dr. Raul Destura is an infectious disease specialist from UP Manila, and before the start of the pandemic, he helped commercialize, through his startup Manila Health Tech, the dengue diagnostic kit that he developed in the Philippine Genome Center with DOST PCHRD funding. More recently in the news, his team also developed the first COVID PCR detection kit in the Philippines that is now finding widespread use. We at Upscale are committed to helping the next generation of researchpreneurs to join Dr. Taboada, Dr. Destura, and of course our guest for today, Dr. Palencia, to make an impact with their technology through our startup incubation program, as well as through our industry academe collaborations with our growing list of industry partners, and finally through our university training programs for students, faculty, and researchers that we have offered and will continue to offer with the support of DOST, CHED, and STRIDE. With that, I hope you enjoy the program ahead of you. Thank you very much, and please have a good day.
All right. Maraming salamat po, Doc Louis. It's a new word I learned today, researchpreneurs. And after listening to this session, I hope you, our audience, would be, more of you would have more researchpreneurs like Drs. Evelyn Tabada and Raul Destura in the future. I hope that got all of you excited to hear our panelists for today and learn as well. This session will be divided into 3 major themes. First, we have the Philippine research startup ecosystem, where our panelists will discuss their impressions about and how the ecosystem actually is for research-based startups. The second part is the Resolve, to create a research-based startup where we will learn more about setting up spin-offs with researchers as founders, as well as the nuances specific to these kinds of startups. Finally, we'll learn about the path ahead, what's in store for research-based startups in the near future. All right? In all three parts, we will be hearing from our panelists who represent the academe and the government, key players in the research startup ecosystem, right? Our first speaker from the academe, we have Dr. Merlinda Palencia. She is the COO of Envigor Inc., and she is also a professor at the Chemical Engineering Department of Adamson University. Gandang hapon po, Doc Palencia.
Everyone, have a pleasant day. Currently, I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Envigor Natural Products Manufacturing Incorporated, the SEC and BOI registered spin-off company of Adamson University. Thank you for having me.
Maraming salamat din po, Doc Palencia. I personally have a lot of questions for you, just because I'm so interested in your research. Our second speaker is from the government. He represents the Research Information and Technology Transfer Division, RITTD, of DOST PSURD. We have Senior Science Specialist, Engineer Edward Apigo, who's also part of the organizing team of the Philippine Startup Week. Magandang tanghali po, Engineer.
Good afternoon, Max. So yes, as what Max mentioned, I'm from the Technology Transfer Division of PSURD. So what we basically do is we provide assistance and support to researchers who wants to commercialize their technologies. So I'm actually the program manager for the Fast Track program of the DOST PSURD. Fast Track is short for funding assistance for spin-off and translation of research to advance commercialization. And I'm also the current program manager of the DOST PSURD startup program.
Maraming salamat po, Engineer Apigo. And for our dear audience, those two are our experts for today. So if you have questions or concerns that you want them to answer for you, just message us anytime via the Attendify platform or the chat box you see on the screen. All right? Okay. Also, like and follow our social media pages if you haven't yet. It's facebook.com/SalikSikPhilippines. Again, facebook.com/SalikSikPhilippines and www.saliksik.ph. That was my mistake, sorry. And www.saliksikph.com for Saliksik. For Upscale, on the other hand, we have facebook.com/Upscale Innovation Hub. Again, facebook.com/Upscale Innovation Hub, no spaces, and upscale.upd.edu.ph. All right? All of these details can be seen on our screen. All right? Message us anytime you want, even during this talk. Okay? Now we move on to the program proper, and I think this is what everyone's waiting for. All right. We start off with the first part, which would be the struggles in the research startup ecosystem. All right. I first start off with Doc Palencia and then Engineer Apigo, because that's the order in which I introduced them. For Doc Palencia, I was researching about you for one entire week. I read about Vigormin, for which kailangan nag-research din ako kasi research ito, for which you won multiple awards. Congratulations po, Doc Palencia. Pardon my ignorance, but I really just want to know, how exactly does Vigormin improve characteristics of wastewater effluent?
Vigormin is a blend of several what we call biogenic minerals from natural earth clay and natural rock components. So what Vigormin does is basically it first neutralizes the pH of the wastewater. And then it enhances what we call bioremediation by providing oxygen, and it also promotes adsorption so that the suspended pollutants can adhere to the surface of the particle and then settle and improve the quality of the surface water. So in all of this, of course, this is a natural process. So we encourage domestic or household wastewater to use our products, because 85% of the pollution load is from domestic wastewater. So basically, it's a combination of bioremediation, adsorption, and pH neutralization.
Right. Salamat po, Doc Valencia. Now, while you were doing research for Vigormin, ano po ba yun? Even while you're doing research, talagang it was already in your mind that you'll commercialize the product? Like you're actually gonna make in Vigor?
No, actually, honestly, when we are doing the research, it's just because as a professor in chemical engineering, we are supposed to do research. Wow,
Right.
so that it is just an academic activity. And since I was handling then research subject for our chemical engineering students, so we were engaged in research projects. But the objective then was just to do research,
Right,
publish,
right.
and be promoted because it's a requirement before you can even establish a professorial position. You have
Right.
to do constant research. So never in our mind that we will be engaging into technopreneurship. Though in my heart I was hoping that I can have some kind of business on my own, but it never occurred to me before that it is through my research projects.
Right, right. It never occurred to your mind back then, but look at you now. You're awarded and you're actually
Uh,
earning from it.
Actually, this is a combination of the support
Mhm.
of Adamson University administrators or administration and of DOST, particularly PSHERD, RITD, and TAPI. So this
Right.
is actually about 7 years of active collaboration between the two, what we call the wind beneath our wings. So we
Yes.
cannot reach that far without DOST and Adamson University.
Yeah. Maraming salamat po, Doc Palencian. Since you already created the segue I needed, I might as well go in and ask questions to Engineer Apico. But of course, babalik ako rin po kayo, Doc
Yeah,
Palencia,
no
later
problem.
on. So, hi, Engineer.
Hi,
What I was
Max.
doing, ang dami kong tanong kasi government eh.
Mhm.
Kailangan kong tumahimik kasi hindi ako ang start. I've been researching about the startup ecosystem in the country, and based on very crude research, mukhang it's there. It just needs more publicity of sorts. Ang tanong ko po is, how is the startup ecosystem in the Philippines compared to its neighboring countries in Southeast Asia?
Well, just like you mentioned, the startup ecosystem in the Philippines is already existing. So
Yeah.
there's actually a thriving startup ecosystem in the country. But I think you're right and you're correct in saying that we really need to promote the startup ecosystem in the country. That's why we have this Philippine Startup Week, because
Right.
this is basically a way of showing or showcasing our Filipino startups community to the world. So. It's really hard to compare because there are actually different aspects in terms of the
Right.
startup, in terms of the numbers, in terms of the activities. But I think what I can just say is our startup ecosystem in the country is thriving. It's also improving in terms of performance. We're doing a lot of startup activities. The government is doing a lot of is providing a lot of support to startups. So I think we're heading towards that direction wherein we could say that we are already at par with our neighboring countries.
All right. I'm happy I'm proven wrong, given my initial impression. Yes. I'm also in research kasi, so hearing you talk is just wonderful. Yay, more people in research. Kay Engineer Apigo pa rin po, syempre tinignan ko na rin yung laws about startup. I found out about Republic Act 11337, or the Innovative Startup Act. I didn't exactly read through the entire thing, just really glossed through it. And what is the status of the implementation of the law?
Okay. So the Republic Act 11337, I'm actually also part of the working group who created or who crafted the implementing rules and regulations. So last year at the first Philippine Startup Week, we actually signed the IRR. The law was passed or signed by President Duterte in April 2019. So after that, so just to give a context now, so the Innovative Startup Act is basically a law that provides incentives and benefits to startups and startup enablers. So hindi lang siya pang startup talaga, but rather it also includes the startup enablers. And when I say startup enablers, that includes the technology business incubators like Upscale, universities, even the local government units or the academies, they're considered also as startup enablers. So
Right.
so the main agencies involved in the implementation of the Innovative Startup Act are the DOST, the DTI, and the DICT. So after we signed the IRR last November 2019, we already uh, started also with the different programs and guidelines for each of the agencies, because each agency have its own part or contribution in the implementation of the Innovative Startup Act. So as far as the DOST is concerned,
Mhm.
we're actually finalizing now the guidelines for the provision of research and development grant to startups, because before it used to be just a research and development grant to researchers like Mamel. So now we're now opening our doors to startups. So hopefully we'll be able to uh, finally provide funding to startups for their research and development. Hopefully, we're actually planning to launch the startup research grant this tomorrow. That's tomorrow on Tuesday,
Right, right.
at the National TBI Summit. So watch out for that, guys, as we finally open or launch our startup grant tomorrow at the TBI Summit. The DICT is also doing something. They're doing the Startup PH website. It's basically a website or a repository of all the startup activities in the country. So if you start up and if you want to know the different activities, if you want also to check out on the different startups in the country, you can just go and visit that website. As far as the DTI, they're also doing several programs. They're in charge of the different in crafting guidelines for the participation of startups to different international and local exhibits and conferences. So we're actually also providing support for to startups for their participation to international exhibits. This is
Right.
also to provide opportunities for them to showcase their innovations, their products and services in the global arena. So we're doing a lot. There were some delays along the way, maybe because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but rest assured that the government is not stopping from doing what it's supposed to do, and we just want to make sure that our programs are will be up and be implemented for the startups.
All right. I'm so incredibly happy that you're saying a lot of good things about research in the Philippines, because a quick research on Google would tell me that hindi maganda ang tingin sa researchers just because people don't have like an idea what we do. So ang happy ko, especially when I heard the word grant. So yes, for the people watching this, there are grants, and that's a government representative talking to you about grants. All right. I have a question for both of our speakers, and it's something that most budding researchers are concerned about. What were the challenges you encountered when you entered the startup research ecosystem? I'll start with Doc Valencia.
Decided to put up our startup company or spin-off company. Most of the challenges that we faced were mainly on the processing of the
Right.
business permits or the all the other permits, because I was so privileged or was just so blessed that the top administration of Adamson University and DOSTP shared are so supportive. So I don't have much problem on the funding. I don't have much problem on how to put up the manufacturing plant, because anyway I'm an engineer, so I can handle the challenges. The challenges really were on the processing of permits, the business permits, or all government permits. But nonetheless, that it is just because I am from the academe, and the professors we are trained to be very exact in doing things. So if you do this, you have an expected output, an expected time. It doesn't work when you are processing the business permits or what government permits. So those are the challenges, and somehow we were able to secure the permits. But those experiences had developed in me that kind of realization that when you're doing business, not everything is under your control. So you have to learn how to dance, so to speak, dance with the music and learn to deal with people, learn how to deal with people and how to be effective in communicating your goals and objectives or your problems to the people who can help you. So, doon na bago, no? Kasi before, as a professor, parang 1 plus 1 equals 2 lagi eh. So, when you do this is the output. But anyway, the challenges really, when we started, these are just more on the reality of how to do business in the Philippines. And that is on how to secure permits, government permits is really a challenge then. We're really a challenge then. I don't know now. But to us in 2017 to 2018, those were challenges. And then it's a good thing that because if you're going to have a business, the support of your family must be there. So if you don't have that kind of support, then you have a lot of conflict that you have to manage. But then, so if you're doing business, just somehow you have to develop that kind of patience and wider perspective of how to do things and how people think and how to deal with people who will support you in a way.
Right.
Did I answer the question?
You did answer the question. Your answer was business permits. And when you said one of the struggles was dealing with people, I personally felt that. Okay, I'm not going to elaborate on that. But we go to Engineer Apigos to answer the question. What were the struggles you encountered when you entered the research startup ecosystem in the country? Nakamute din si Engineer.
Yeah, sorry. So, Ma'am Mel shared a different perspective, no? So, yung perspective ni Ma'am Mel kanina was on the other side of the spectrum kasi Ma'am Mel already had the mindset. She was already funded by DOST. She was already prepared to commercialize. But on the other side of the spectrum, there are these researchers who are not really keen on commercialization. So, most of them would just want to do research. I just want to do research. I just want to publish. And after that, I'll do another research and so on and so forth. So, majority of our researchers in the country are on that side. So I think that's one of the biggest problem because funding research, we're using people's money and that's government money. So we really need to translate those research into products and outputs that the general public can use, such as the Vigomin that Dr. Malencia has developed. So I think the primary challenge really is on changing the mindset of researchers to go into commercialization because I think that's the first thing that they need to hurdle going towards commercialization, having that mindset to commercialize. And I think we're glad that now, I think Dr. Palencia really is our benchmark in terms of changing the mindset because she happens to be our sort of parang first case kasi as far as Fishered is concerned. She was our first spin-off, and every time we talk to researchers, we always use Dr. Palencia as our example. So I think it's easier to convince researchers now to commercialize because we have people like Dr. Palencia that we can use as our case studies, our test case. And when you show results and show good track record like what Vigomin has achieved, I think it's easier to accomplish that. So we're actually happy and we're actually glad that we're slowly changing the mindset of researchers. Before, us in the tech transfer, our role is really to assist them. Before, we used to convince researchers to commercialize, but now we're getting a lot of queries now from the researchers asking our help. How should they commercialize? Where should they start? So that's on the perspective of the researchers. That's on the perspective of the funding agency. Well, another perspective also is on the industry side naman. Kasi I think industries also, they're also interested to collaborate with researchers, but probably the main problem and concern is really also on the bureaucracy side of things. Kasi some of our universities, especially state universities, I don't need to mention names, but I think the reason why some industries are not really keen on partnering with them is the processes that they have to go through all the different negotiations that they have to go through. I think those are the pain points of our industry. But I think we're also addressing that in terms of policies. I think our state universities, even private universities, they have also established their policies for industry collaboration and linkages. And I think slowly or little by little, our industry are now going towards that direction of collaborating with the academe and researchers to conduct research and development. And I think that's also being supported by different programs of the DOST, like the Cradle program, so the collaborative research and development program to leverage the economy. So I think that's the program where we also support research and development of industry and the academe. So I think that's the perspective of the government and the industry as far as
Right.
what we have observed in on the challenges of going into the research ecosystem.
Salamat, engineer. Grabe yung pagpupuri ang binibigay natin kay Ma'am Mel. Nag-fangirl ako. Tapos, yeah, I'm gonna give the floor back to Ma'am Mel for an additional struggle you encountered.
This struggle actually is not my concern before, but actually this is shared by some of our co-researchers from other universities. So I'm just said that I am blessed because Adamson University was so supportive that even if I'm just starting up, even if I was just building the manufacturing plant, even if I was just starting to promote our product, my salary is stable. So my position and salary in the university is stable. So even if because if you're doing business, you don't know even if you will gain market immediately and that your business will be profitable at the very early stage. So the major concern of some of the researchers is if they will go into business and at the very initial stage they will not be able to promote and market their product well, what will happen to their financial standing or to their financial status? So I think these are the major concerns that most faculty members are having problems in deciding whether they will go into startup or going to commercialize their product. So if there is a way that the government or the industry or the university can secure enough funding to ensure that the faculty members or the researchers will be given financial support or stable income even during the first 3 years, then I think more researchers will go into commercialization of their product. So imagine if these faculty members are breadwinners, they are supporting their own family. So the fear is there that what will happen if my product will not be accepted in the market. So wala siyang income. So yun yung mga fears. So these are if we have a way of improving the incubation of the technology and providing financial support to the researchers, to the innovators, to the inventors, especially during the first 3 years of commercial operation, then I think more will be encouraged, no? More will be encouraged to do technopreneurship. Thank you.
Salamat po. May quick question po ako. Like, Ma'am Mel mentioned that like, there's a fear of commercialization and one of the key factors for it would be, the funding may not be there because these people are breadwinners of their families too.
Yeah.
Is being a breadwinner the only factor that we can get from these people? That's why they have a fear, or may iba pa? Or primarily yun lang?
I think basically...
This is for both of you.
Kasi if you will be... In Adamson University, I don't know with the other schools, no? In Adamson University, when I decided or when we were negotiating on whether to start up or whether to commercialize through spin-off or through licensing, they made it very clear to me that I will retain my status in the university, my ranking, and the salary will be there regularly. So if imagine if you're a professor, even if you're not the head of the family, if you're earning, for example, 50,000 a month as a professor, and then you're going into business. So yung fear na what will happen to my regular monthly income. if I am the CEO, and then even if you're the CEO and if you're not earning from your business, so yung fear na ganon, yung mostly of their
Okay.
fears are actually not the hard work. The fears of the researchers and the faculty members are not the hard work, not the challenges ahead. It's more on what will happen to their financial standing, to how they will help their family. Yun lang naririnig ko kasi I heard it from them that what will happen if this will not work out, or if the initial years were really very challenging and we're still promoting our product, and then there is no enough income to support all the personnel in the company, what will happen to us? So yun ang mga fears. So I think if you
Okay.
can strengthen this area, more faculty members will have that motivation. More of them will be motivated to go into technopreneurship.
Thank you, ma'am. Engineer, from the perspective of the government, ano pong masasabi niyo doon? Is it just
Yeah, yes. I would just like to add on that, no. Kasi one of the many factors also that we have noticed with the researchers why they're not really keen on going through commercialization is they're very technical kasi. So they're trained in the lab. So they don't have any experience in managing a business. They don't have the business
right?
they don't have the business acumen. So I think that's one of the apprehensions of many of the researchers because I don't know where to start. I don't know how to crunch numbers. I don't know how to find my
Yeah.
market. I don't know who my market is. So those
Right,
those
right.
things. So I think and I think Ma'am Palente is also another example of a researcher that was helped by the UST because Ma'am Palencia was also part of that training program. We have that
LAF.
Leaders in Innovation and Fellowship program where we train researchers. We actually send them to UK to immerse themselves to immerse themselves at the Royal Academy of Engineering to learn the business side of things. So I think that's one of the key reasons why Dr. Palencia was also very eager to commercialize her technology because
Yeah.
at the very least she was already equipped with the basic business and
Mm, mm.
entrepreneurial mindset. Of course, the other factors were already there, but I think having that business acumen reinforces that drive to commercialize. And even with the current portfolio of researchers that we have that are going into commercialization, those researchers have actually all been part of the LIF. So so I think the LIF program or other programs that provides business or entrepreneurial skills are also very helpful to encourage researchers to go into commercialization.
Salamat doon. Kakatuwa isipin. May additional question na naman ako. Sinabi ko naman, kinikilig ako. Nagpe-prepare ako dito. Since we're missing like a representative, although may nabanggit na si engineer kanina, but we're looking at the perspective from the industry or business. Like, I'm very much aware that researchers, their language is very technical, which I think is one of the difficulties of making their research mainstream. Kasi hindi inaiintindihan ng common tao yung lingwahe. So, for that, like, how do you, paano nyo nililigawan ang business sector to be involved in your research?
Is that the question? Is the question for me or for Mamel?
For engineer primarily. Kasi ikaw yung may
Okay.
perspective ng industry.
Oo.
Okay. Yeah, correct. But I would also like to emphasize the role of the technology transfer officers in the universities. Kasi actually sila yung conduit, sila yung channel between the researcher and the industry. Sila yung they serve as the negotiator, sila yung sort of broker, sila yung humaharap. They're the ones who talk to the industry. So they are the ones who also translate the research into a more layman term because they also ensure that they won't be able to provide any enabling disclosure that would compromise the IP of the research. So I think the technology transfer officers in the university plays a very big role in terms of industry and industry collaboration, talking to the industry, because basically they're the ones that promotes the technologies of of the research that are generated and funded by the university or by the government. Ma'am
Okay.
Mel might want to add on that. Paano mo
Uh,
daw, how do you market your tech, Ma'am Mel, in terms
Opo.
of making it
in,
easy to be
Yun pala
understood?
yung dapat yung tanong ko. How did you market
uh,
Mambel?
in terms of the linkages of Envigor, our company, actually, in the promotion of our product, again, the great help are the regional offices of DOST. Because, our product is environmental. It's not something like it's not a necessity right now. It's not considered a necessity. No,
Okay.
it's an environmental product. So what we do is to be able to reach out to the different industrial market for primarily. We just develop. We just try to promote to them that care for the environment. So we provide technical consultancy for free. If you will buy our product, technical consultancy is free if you will buy our product. But even if you are asking some questions, we provide technical advice to some extent. But technical consultancy is free in terms of wastewater if you will buy our product. So we have what we call after sales service to our customers, and then we learn from them also. We try to improve our quality. We try to improve another variant to be able to address the different concerns of wastewater treatment because wastewater treatment is so complex. There is
Mhm.
no one master key for all the solutions, or no one product will solve all. No, there is not possible. So we try to innovate again and produce additional variants to address different types of wastewater. Now, in the university, I think the way they encourage participation of the industry is our ITSO. Our ITSO, as mentioned by Engineer Apigo, is trying to link our applied researches to the company who they think has what they call applicable concerns. No, so it is a linkage of our ITSO with the different industries, primarily through our alumni. So because we have alumni who are in the field of engineering and who are in the industries, so they share the concerns and we try to address their problems and use it as the objective of our applied researches. Like to
All
us,
right.
for Supermin, it is just after sales service. And we try to encourage them na we have to care for our environment to make development sustainable. And they are responding positively.
Okay. Maraming salamat po. Um, so for our audience today, these two experts have already laid out the basic knowledge that we need to know about the startup ecosystems in the Philippines. So the ecosystem, the research startup ecosystem is here. It exists. All you need to do is to tap, right?
Yeah.
Tap the resources. So ako, quick Google search, and then it just connected me to Saliksik. Being in the academe is a very, very helpful way of being introduced to startup because research can't be anything if it just stays with the researchers. It has to be shared because, again, one of Saliksik's mandate is to make research the backbone of the country because you can't have the country progress without research. And we have two esteemed representatives of research via Dr. Palencia and Engineer Apigo over here. We also know the struggles they've encountered or some of the researchers have encountered. Primarily, it would be money or even the maintenance of the startup company, even with people who help them, even with institutions to help them. All right. And since we're done with the background, we're also done with the struggle, talking about the struggles. We're now going to the motivations of why they do startup here. I'll start again with Doc Palencia. Medyo nasagutan na rin niyo po kanina to. So my question is, why did you decide to build a startup instead of license your invention to a bigger company?
Okay.
Yeah.
So Adamson University is a Vincentian institution. So
Mm.
part of our vision mission is what we call a catalyst for social and community development. Our product is good for the environment, and we want to have a deeper and engaged involvement in the uh, protection and conservation of our environment and conservation of our natural resources. We thought then that if we will license our product, we may not be able to control the prices, and
Right.
we may not be able to control. Siyempre, it's business. It's business. So we don't have direct control on how the business will go. But if we are going to have a startup company, the objectives, vision and mission of the university will be felt in the company, will be the guide, will be the serving, it will serve as the guide of our company vision and mission. So we will not depart from the university vision and mission, which is community engagement and community development. So those were the major concerns. So we want to have a deeper, wider, and engaged involvement in the development of our communities through natural way of wastewater treatment. So yan lang naman yun. So we have a fear that if we will license it, we will not be able to, of course, it is licensed, so they have the control of the business. And we want to make our product affordable and be applied to the different household and communities. Kasi yun ang
Right.
main concern.
Thank you, Ma'am Mel. For Engineer Apigo, like aside from funding or grants, how else do you encourage researchers to go into startup?
Okay. Siguro let me just also, can I just add to what Mamel also
Yeah.
Of course, of
talked
course.
earlier about deciding on going into spin-off or startup versus licensing your tech. I think
Right.
one factor there that really helps a researcher decide is in terms of the level of involvement that researcher wants in terms of the commercialization of the technology. So if you are a researcher who wants to continue with the academe, you still want to teach, you don't want to be involved
Yeah.
in a bigger risk. Because starting a startup is very risky and versus licensing your technology. So I think the main factor there is the amount or the level or the extent of involvement that the researcher would want. So for other researchers, if I just want to continue with my work, my day job as a researcher, I can just simply go towards the licensing route. And also it will not require me to establish my own companies. I don't have to go through all the nitty-gritty, all the challenges in building a startup. So I can just simply I'll just get some royalties. I'll just while teaching, right? Whereas for high risk takers like Mamel, who really wants to be involved in the process, like she mentioned, she doesn't want anyone to control the price. So these are the types of researchers who would really want to venture into a startup. Sila yung mas medyo risk taker talaga because the risk kasi is on you eh. Whereas when you license the technology, you're actually transferring the risk to the company you are licensing your technology to. So I think those are the main considerations for researchers. So
Right.
so what was the question again? Sorry, nawala ako tuloy dun sa
Okay. Okay lang. Maliban po sa pera, ang pagkakatanong ko, aside from funding, sorry, how do you encourage researchers to get into startup, given na marami rin silang fears?
Okay, so actually when we talk to them, we always ask the first thing that we ask them is, what's your goal? Like, how do you see yourself after this research? Where do you want to take this technology after research? So dun pa lang when we talk to them about their goals, that's the time when we realize or when we decide na this researcher
licensing
pang licensing to, this researcher pang spin-off to. So doon kami nagbe-base when we talk to them. So when we feel that this researcher is going towards the direction of establishing a spin-off, that's the time we handhold the researchers from the onset. We even go as much as talking to their university president just to encourage them and to also be involved, provide also additional support to the researcher. We even help them compute for their financial analysis, for their break-even, ilan ba dapat yung ipoproduce mo for you to gain profit or income. So those things. So I think yung support talaga namin really depends on the type again, I'm going back to to those things that I mentioned earlier. It really depends on the extent of involvement of the researcher. I think if you are a researcher and if you want to go to startup or spin-off route, medyo mas mataas yung level of support compared to if you're a researcher who just wants to license, because yung sa licensing part naman it's being taken care of by the technology transfer officer. So whereas pag spin-off, it really requires a lot of factors. It needs your time. It needs additional resources for you to market your technology, to validate your technology to your intended users or clients. So madami. I think maganda nga, as I mentioned earlier, maganda that we already have people like Ma'am Mel that we can already show as example, kasi when we tell them that it's possible, kasi before nung wala pa kaming Ma'am Palencia, researchers would think it's not possible doing research and at the same time commercializing, establishing your company. That's not possible. So when we're able to show people like Ma'am Mel, people like Dr. Francis Uy of Mapua, Dr. Naval of UP also, and the other spin-off companies, it's easy to convince researchers actually to commercialize, because in fact we don't even have to convince them, sila mismo na yung lumalapit sa amin. How can we start, how shall we start, how can we commercialize? So there, madali na lang ang lahat. But then again, the decision still is within the researcher. Sila talaga yon. We don't tell them, oh, ikaw mag-spin-off ka, o ikaw mag-licensing ka. Sila talaga, the decision comes from them.
Okay po. In terms of terminology, ano po yung spin? What do you mean by spin-off? What do you mean by licensing? Like, how are they different from each other?
Okay. So yung spin-off kasi, it refers to companies that came out of research funded by the university or by the government. So, for example, si Mamel, the technology by Gurmin, it was funded by DOST. So, when it was funded kasi by the DOST, technically, the technology is not owned by Mamel. It's owned by the University Adamson. So, Mamel expressed her interest to commercialize the technology. So, kaya siya spin-off kasi it stemmed from the technology that was funded by the government. So technically, yung spin-offs natin, they're also considered a startup, kasi a startup naman are yung mga early stage enterprises who have yet to prove their business model. So technically, all spin-offs are startups, but not all startups are spin-offs. So yun yung pagkakaiba. Yung startups naman, yung technologies nila came from their own resources. So for example, they nag-bootstrap sila, they came from their own money or from their parents' money. So hindi sila supported ng government. They were not funded. Their technologies or research were not funded by the government. Yung licensing naman, it's basically a strategy to commercialize yung technology. So yung sa side naman ng yung licensing naman that I was talking earlier, it's one strategy it's actually the most common strategy for commercialization, especially for researchers. Kasi you basically just transfer the know-how to another company. So for example lang, kung si Mamel, if she wasn't keen on commercializing her technology, kung gusto niyang i-license yung technology niya, so she should find a manufacturer that can produce by Gurmin, and then she will just transfer the know-how. Ibig sabihin, the formulation, how is it being processed, how is it being produced. So yun yung transfer of knowledge and know-how. So that's the licensing.
Okay. Thank you for that one. Ma'am Mel, may gusto po ba kayong idagdag?
Okay na.
Okay na po. Ako rin, nakuha ko na lahat ng gusto kong malaman. Sige, maraming salamat po. So with that part, we've already discussed like the decisions of researchers, the decisions involved for researchers to actually go with startups to commercializing their research there. And Engineer Apigo was very, kaya ko to. 3 seconds, diba? Right. And it has been very clear that Engineer Apigo said that Ma'am Mel is our benchmark for very successful researchpreneurs, in fact. So if our audience has any questions for that, there you go. We have two people here who's perfect to answer your questions. That was the second part. We now move on to the third part, which actually is the last one, but I think we have a lot to say about it, which is called The Path Ahead. And while I was reading our script last night, our trailblazers who made these questions actually crafted really, really good questions here. And I'll start with the first one. Do you think that, to quote one of our senators, the Philippines should be baliw na baliw sa research? I love that question.
I think the senator has a very good intention of supporting researchers, but I think the term should not be baliw na baliw. Kasi to me, baliw na baliw is unfocused,
Right.
without clear objectives, without goals. Baliw nga eh, di ba? So I think the term should be more focused on innovations and applied research. So I think the UST now is very much into it, no? I think all the researchers of the UST funding are into some kind of meron silang path, merong 2020 milestone o yung mga priority projects. And if you will follow the priority projects of the UST, nandun na yung development path of our technology. We only need to follow the UST's path. So to me, though I know the senator has good intention, but I think it's not be baliw na baliw, but more focused and well supported dapat ang ating innovations and new technologies emerging from research.
Right. Thank you, Mamel. For engineer, what is your response? Yeah, Miss Universe, what is your response?
Yeah, I've actually heard about that, but I haven't really gotten all the entire context of that conversation, of that interview. But maybe just to answer that, maybe indirectly, I think with all the things that had happened in the past months, like COVID-19, with all these calamities, I think research and development really plays a very important role.
Oh, yeah.
In solving the current problems that we have, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. And in fact, I would say that the Philippines has a lot of talented researchers. In fact, when we opened the call for COVID-19 solutions, we were overwhelmed with the amount of startups and researchers who have submitted their innovations or research proposals to be able to come up with COVID-19 related innovation. So I think it simply proves that it's really okay to go into research, or should I call it to be crazy about research. But Mamel was just saying earlier, it shouldn't be called crazy, but siguro I would just say to be serious about research, because I think I think when you are serious about research and development, that gives more reason for the government to provide or increase funding for research and development, because I think as far as the other countries are concerned, we're not really at par in terms of research and development funding, but at least we're able to increase our global innovation index. And I think the primary consideration or factor for such increase is the increase also in research and development outputs. So I would say that we should take research seriously. So we should, tama si Mamel, we shouldn't call it like crazy or baliw na baliw, but we should take it seriously, provide more resources, provide more opportunities for research and development, because I think research and development is R&D is very crucial, especially during these trying times.
Right. Salamat po. If we are to talk about a paragon research culture, aling bansa po siguro ang pwede nating tingnan? Like the research culture we want the Philippines to have. Aling bansa, aling institution?
I think Edward can answer that because he has exposed a lot of this.
Okay. In your experience, engineer.
Yes, siguro, I think I've been to China. Like, I was in China. I was in China last year. I was given the opportunity to attend a 2-week immersion in China to look at their technology business incubation landscape and research innovation landscape, and I was really impressed. And I think primary reason for the success of China in terms of research innovation is the fact that the government is fully
Right.
supporting. There are a lot of policies and laws in place that relates to research and development. So I think for me, actually, we're getting a lot of hates against China with all the
Yeah.
things also that are happening. But as far as research and development, innovation, I think China is also a good model for that. I
Right.
think
Right.
we can look up to them in terms of how they're doing research and development. I think they're it used to be actually what was interesting and what was very memorable for me is when I had the opportunity to talk with a university president in China. So before kasi 'di ba parang when you think about China, it's always na parang they're a copycat, parang they just always want to
Yeah.
copy something.
That's
So
the
they always
stereotype.
parang the stereotype. So parang yung goal nila pala ngayon is to erase that mindset na China is just a copycat. So they're doing their best to erase that mindset. So therefore they're doing a lot of research and development na novel, those that have not been done before. So maganda din yung strategy ng China. So I would
Opo.
say China is really, really good in research and development. And again, the major factor for that is the government's support to their research and
Yeah.
development.
Right. Right.
I think I think in
Sige,
terms of
Mamel.
government support, China really can be a good model. But to me, if we are going to consider the entire ecosystem, my model really is okay because all the sectors, especially the industries, the private manufacturing industries, and the academe and the government are really in collaboration, in active collaboration to promote what we call innovations and technology development. So to me, it's okay when it comes to the entire ecosystem. US is
Mhm.
also a good model, but when it comes to government support, yes, China can be a very good model for government support. But you see, the system of government is different from ours.
Right.
So the way they do it may not be applicable to us. So I think if we can even in Asia, if we can just reach the level of Malaysia, we are in good
Mm,
standing.
yeah, yeah,
If we
yeah.
Okay.
can even reach the level of Malaysia in Asia, we are in good technology development standing.
Mamel, since you mentioned Malaysia, can you describe the research culture in Malaysia?
Uh, through the UST again, we have LIF, remember? We have a LIF session, ASEAN LIF in Malaysia. And I was able to talk to some of the industry partners of Malaysian University and of some
Mhm.
of the university researchers. They have a very engaged or active collaboration. So even before a researcher can come up with a research idea, the manufacturing industries are giving them the topic or the idea on it's problem based research.
Right.
It's applied research. Unlike now, most of the research idea are coming from the professors or from the researchers themselves. In Malaysia, it's not there are some researchers that really come from the universities, but in a way, most of them are applied.
Mhm.
The industries, the manufacturing sector have problems. They contact the university, solve that problem. So I hope we can reach that stage wherein there is very active, healthy, robust collaboration between the industry, the government, and the academy. And that will really promote our innovation and technology development.
All right. Thank you, Mamel. So we to our audience, we heard about three research cultures, three model research cultures that we have there. We were given a talk about the United Kingdom, China, and also Malaysia. If you want to talk about our ASEAN neighbors there, all right. I have one more question. I mean, if it's not the pandemic and also if it's not typhoons, what are the topics that Filipino researchers should prioritize?
To me, it's either environment and
Mhm.
energy. Environment and energy.
Thanks,
And
Mamel.
I think these are the priority research projects also of the UST.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I would agree. Environment, I think transportation also
Oh,
needs
yeah.
Food security. Food security, I forgot. Food security,
Food
food
security.
security, environment, and energy, and transportation.
yeah, transportation. I think siguro one last lang, which is also interesting, since we already had two microsatellites. I think there's also a good opportunity for research on space data because we already
Yeah.
have two satellites. So I think our Diwata satellites were able to generate a lot of space data, and I think we should leverage on that by developing or by using the space data to different
Yeah.
applications. So I think that's one aspect or research discipline that needs to be enhanced or to be improved.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Naramdaman ko yung transportation. Yun yung immediate sa akin eh. But thank you very much. So, we're talking about microsatellites, we're talking about transport, energy, food security, and in the environment as well. This is perfect since we were just ravaged by Typhoon Ulysses. And I heard from Pag-asa, the country is welcoming 4 more storms before the end of 2020. Nakakaloka. But anyway, is there anything else you'd like to add to our discussion? Because you two were just fantastic answering the questions our trailblazers prepared for you.
So first, to me, I'd like to take this opportunity to encourage our professors, our in the academic community, to really engage into applied research. The UST is always there to help us, and there are a lot of government agencies who are also helping us. If I may mention, BOI is also helping startups because our company now is enjoying the pioneer status of BOI registration, and we have 6 years of income tax holiday. So all government agencies are really helping us, are really willing to help us, but we just have to, so to speak, dive into the ocean, dive into the ocean and explore the technopreneurship world of the academic. Because before, as mentioned by Sir of Engineer Edward, kasi pag most of the professors or most of the researchers really love their product. Piniperfect kasi yan eh. They really love it, the technology. But then, on the other side of it, if nobody will be using it, if the product cannot help our country, then wala tayong sustainability of our development. So we really want to encourage. My product is a very simple one. I'm really encouraging the young professors, the young engineers, the young scientists, the young people of our country. You are the hope of our nation. The development of our country depends on the creativity of the minds of the young people. So
Right.
put them into good use, and then hopefully through you, our country will be greater, and our country will be among the top countries in Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Engineer Apigo, may pahabol po tayong isang question from the organizer, from one of the
Sure, sure.
organizers. This is Pong. So he's asking, like, aside from Republic Act 11337, are there laws or bills involving startups and support for startups?
I think yung for now, yung medyo related talaga sa startup is the RA 11337, which is the Innovative Startup Act. I think the law naman was created to make it more inclusive, to cover different aspects. Hindi siya masyadong specific. They created it in such a way to make it more generic para pwede later on, madami kang pwedeng i-align doon eh. So I think yun yung maganda doon sa law na yun because it's very inclusive. It's very inclusive.
All right. Maraming salamat, engineer. To our director, Pong, I hope the engineer answered your question sufficiently. He's also backstage in StreamYard working very hard for this talk to happen, right? So that was actually the end of our program proper. We talked about 3 things: the struggles in the research startup ecosystem. We also talk about the decision to do a startup and engage in customer development. And the third one, the most important one, I would say, is the path ahead, or what's in store for the research culture here in the Philippines. Research startup ecosystem.
Yeah,
Engineer,
I think, ano lang, kasi yung last word, hindi pa ako
Alright.
nakapag So siguro,
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Mamel Palencia was saying earlier. So with all the things or with all the programs and with all the support that the DOST or the government is currently providing the research and startup ecosystem, I think now is the best time to do research and commercialize. We are now on the time where we have a lot of resources available. We have a lot of experts available. We have a lot of facilities available. We have a lot of network available. So I think there's really no excuse for someone who would say, ayoko na mag-research kasi mahirap. So I think yun lang naman yung masasabi ko. Now is the best time to do research and also to commercialize.
Maraming salamat po, Engineer. At this point, for our two experts, Doc Palencia and Engineer Apigo, meron po ba kayo gustong i-plug? Programs or upcoming projects?
Okay,
So,
ladies first, Mamel.
I would just like to share that Vigormin now is available in the retail market, in some leading supermarkets. So we have now, it is available now in Robinsons Sandyman, in Pure Gold, and in SNR, and some other groceries and supermarkets in areas of Marikina, Antipolo, and Quezon City. So if you are individual households who would like to apply and help and support our efforts to clean our natural water resources, please apply Vigomin, 1 kilo a month in your septic tank or septic water to be able to clean our domestic wastewater. Be a part of natural way of cleaning wastewater. Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Ma'am.
right, so for me naman, so today we officially opened our Philippine Startup Week. This morning we had the event from the ICT Innovation. So thank you everyone who have tuned in to the first or the opening ceremonies earlier for the Philippine Startup Week. And I would just like to invite everyone to also catch and tune in to the TBI 4th Technology Business Incubator Summit, which is happening tomorrow at 9 a.m. So we actually have different segments lined up for you. We will be the virtual summit will be highlighted by the keynote speeches from our distinguished guests. We have international speakers. Then we will also have a panel discussion of our startups and startup enablers. And then we will also be launching or officially announcing the Startup Research Grant program. So, and then tomorrow also we will be awarding our Technology Business Incubator Partner Award. So there are a lot of things to watch out for tomorrow. So I hope you can join us tomorrow at the 4th Technology Business Incubator Summit, which you can also catch through this Attendify app. And also if you want to follow us or get updates from DOST Shared, just go to our Facebook page at DOST Shared. Shared Technology Transfer. We also have our Instagram, and you can also visit our Pinoy Science. And you can, for queries also about startups and research and technology transfer, you can email me through this email address being projected on screen. I think that's it, Maxine. Max,
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po kay Doc Palencia, kay Engineer Apigo. I hope we all learned so much today dahil napakasiksik ng discussion. And I had to use siksik kasi saliksik ito, di ba? So anyway, kulit. Before I summarize everything, like really quick, I'd like to call on Professor Jill Manapat for our closing remarks. Hi, Professor Jill.
Of the Saliksik and Upscale team, we really appreciate your time joining our community event. If you're a researcher, we hope that we spurred your interest to pursue the startup path. If you're not a researcher, we hope that we sparked your interest in research and the important role it plays in society. In Saliksik, we always say that research is relevant to everyone because if you think about it, the solution to every societal problem you can think of really it begins with research. So please support our Filipino researchers. You can follow Saliksik on Facebook at Saliksik Philippines. We have regular webinar events. You can catch us there, so please like and follow us. Our email and website are also shown on screen, as well as Upscale's social media accounts. Again, thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you again in our future events. Together, let us build a strong research culture in the country. We are Saliksik, empowering Filipino research for national progress.